Hello, everyone. It's fantastic to be here with First 11 today, and I'm joined by Luke Browning from FordZilla. Thank you very much for joining me.
No, it's absolutely no problem at all. It's good to be here. So, hello everyone.
Good stuff. So, I am fascinated about the world of sim racing. I'm a bit of a car buff, but nowhere near as sort of adept as you guys are. As you can see, I'm rocking my Ford Mustang T-shirt with the sort of it's one of my wish list cars. So, when I found out that Ford had an esports team, it was really cool to see kind of one of the big manufacturers with all that sort of legacy pushing forward into the new space. So how did you learn about Ford and the esports team? And were you very much involved in the sim racing side of things before you joined?
Yeah, I mean, I got very lucky. I got picked up by one of the pros at FordZilla just by doing what I do on in online races, and yeah, he sort of picked me up for my pace. He said you'd be a perfect fit because obviously I was running alongside British F4 this year, which was powered by Ford EcoBoost, so it all sort of tied in really nicely. So we ended up becoming British F4 champion in the Ford car, and then also backed by Ford and being a pro esports driver. But just the opportunities out here at the moment, Ford have really been, one of the first people to properly get behind it. And you can see from the shows a couple of years or last year, it's all looking pretty exciting.
So I've seen obviously what you won the F4 championship, which is insanely cool. And I think they've always had this sort of racing pedigree, haven't they? So I think that on face value, people think, oh, Ford, whatever. But when you go a bit deeper, they've always been there, kind of the forefront of racing, whether it's Le Mans or in this case, F4. Was that your kind of first season in F4? Did you come up with them all the way through? Or just be great to learn about your F4 career. And then prior to that, racing, like what's your on track kind of racing experience?
Yeah, I mean, so I start back. It all started when I was 10. Helped into karting with my dad, just a bit of dad and lad team. It very quickly got serious. A pretty competitive guy, very much like I am on the sim. It got very serious very quickly, and we moved into cars when I was 14. Racing little Citroen Saxos. That got more and more serious. Moved into the Toka package, the Janetta Juniors. Ended up finishing P3 in that overall in the championship, which is cool. We moved up to F4. We did 1 year last year with a different team, which is in racing, and then we stepped up for my title challenging year with very well known Fortec Motorsports and managed to go and win the championship.
So what's that circuit like? Your kind of calendar with the F4 races. Is that a lot of international races, or it's sort of a division I'm not, obviously I follow lots of different races and racing classes, but F4 specifically. I mean, how many races are in a season for that, and how demanding is it in
So
terms of
there's usually 10 rounds and three
yeah.
races a weekend. Well, I think there's a few that have two, so I think it works out around 28 races. And um, I'm sorry, I missed your question there. I missed the end of it. It broke up a little bit.
Oh, it's all right. I was saying the season, like how many races are there typically in an F4 season, and how kind of just it'd be good to understand how demanding that is for you as a driver. Is there a lot of international travel, or does it
Oh,
tend to
that's it.
be in
Yeah.
Europe, or just that the season?
Yeah, so it's purely British F4. So we've got
Yeah.
plenty of sort of F4 different championships around the world. Like you've got, I think you've got F4 SEA, Italian F4, German F4, British F4 just purely focuses on the British tracks. And it's usually known to be sort of the main F4 championship, just mainly because what sort of the British weather conditions are quite challenging, and also you get to go to some of the top tracks, looks like Silverstone and
Yeah.
go racing the GP tracks, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. So transitioning into esports, sim racing, how similar are they? I mean, because I've been told that it's kind of different because obviously in the car you've got the G forces, you've got the kind of element of danger, whereas in the sim racing it's kind of just about being really quick and maybe just how fast you can actually get around the track as opposed to dealing with everything else. Do you find there's a lot of transferable skills from one into the other, or do you? I mean, what's the comparison like for you? Because not many are in both camps.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it helps me hone my skills so much. I can't tell you how much it's helped me throughout the years. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously different because the way you feel it in the car, you feel it through your bum, and sort of the vibrations and that sort of G-force sort of helps you feel grip. Whereas in the sim, it's purely you're supposed to be able to see the grip. When
Mm.
you can see when this car just starts to go off angle a little bit, and you've got to turn into it. And so it's a different type of driving, but very much the philosophy of being quick is the same. Line of least resistance, early throttles, managing traction. It's all sort of it's very, very scientific still,
Mm.
but yeah, for sure. I mean, I transfer over consistency and being able to concentrate for these long races and long stints on esports helps me so much when I transfer it over to F4.
So in the sim racing space, are there specific cars or classes that you would compete in, or are you pretty broad in terms of what races? So would you say, do you mix across Forza and F1 or whatever the games are, or have you got a specific specialty?
So, yeah, my specialty is iRacing. So I
Okay,
purely do iRacing on
just
the sim.
iRacing. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I dabble in a little bit of Assetto Corsa, but my skills are nowhere near as
yeah,
refined as they are in iRacing. That's sort of my main focus around FordZilla. Like we did the Le Mans,
yeah.
24 hours Le Mans, and then I think we've got Daytona coming and up soon in January. So yeah, we'll be focusing on them GT races, try and bring it home for Ford.
So what's your setup like? Whether you race at home or with the four guys, do you have like a comparable setup with like the steering wheel, the seat, the like multiple displays, or like how good does your equipment need to be basically to compete in the kind of sim iRacing space?
I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, when you get used to a sim, some people go over the top and try and get some stuff that's just really not necessary.
Hmm.
As long as you've got a good wheelbase that you can feel what's going on, you've got some, a reasonably good set of pedals. I think my rig's relatively cheap compared to what some of the other guys use, but I can be just as quick and as long as I think it's whatever you get used to. And you can be consistent with. That's the main thing, because at the end of the day, if you can get a big direct drive wheel, which is brilliant for force feedback, but you can't hang on to it because it's too heavy for more than 25 laps, it's going to be a bit pointless. So it's
Yeah.
all about sort of feeling what's good for you. Like I've got a big screen instead of the triples, because I just find that I find that more immersive, and so I can look into the apex a little bit more, and sort of not have the creases on the screen, which some people can deal with, but I find it a little bit tedious. So yeah, it's all very different and sort of depends on what you like.
Yeah, I think one of the guys in the last chat we had was using a VR headset. So have you ever used one of those for the iRacing or?
Yeah, I have. I used one at the Autosport show in 2019, and it was weird. It
Yeah.
was really weird. It's cool. It's virtual reality, so it's just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I think it sort of made me a little bit sick being sat in it for a couple hours. But I respect him highly for doing it. But that's a different craft. That is. It must feel strange, but yeah, I'm sure once you put enough hours into it, and if you enjoy using it, it'd be yeah, you can be quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of people use VR and they feel a bit ill, don't they? Because it's just so much
For
coming at you at
sure.
any one time.
Yeah, yeah,
I suppose. So the other thing I was going to ask about was Ford is iconic, right? You've got some incredible cars. I remember watching about a year ago. I watched Le Mans '66, which was the Christian Bale, Matt Damon movie
yeah.
about the Le Mans, which was amazing. I thought it was really, really cool. And the
Mm.
GT40, and then other films you got like Bullet with the classic Mustang and the GT350 and the Shelby Cobra, like all these classic Ford cars. Have you got like a favorite with like the Ford, the iconic racing cars? So if you could pick one, if you're going to win like a race and you could pick, and the prize, you could pick one iconic Ford vehicle.
It's
It can't
it's
be an F4 car. That's cheating.
yeah. Imagine.
Yeah.
It's got to be the GT40, isn't it?
Yeah.
Surely, like an old classic Le Mans GT40. I think you just can't beat that. I remember, yeah, like you said, I remember watching the movie, and it just sort of engulfs you in this atmosphere of Le Mans. And I can only imagine what it'd been like for them guys back then to sort of drive this car around that was just so raw.
Yeah.
It must have just bled the ears how loud it was, and sort of how raw it was. But I guess that's how far racing's come, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was at Goodwood Revival, and they had a couple of old GT40s, and the sound and the smell and everything was just amazing. So to go and see those things go around a track in real life is amazing. But I guess what's even cool, as cool as you can actually not have to drop like $1 million on it. You can just race it in a sim race,
Yeah.
and not worry about it. But I mean, with that, are there lots of different rivalries now with different teams that you're sort of building up? Or, I mean, I know Ford have got ambitions to really try and win more podiums and kind of make a mark on various classes, whether it's iRacing or different things. I mean, with that said, what have you got, like an objective you're trying to get to in the next 12 to 18 months with Ford?
I mean, we just want to win more races, you know. I
Yeah,
think the more that we win, the more that we get out there, the more that we show how good Ford are really.
yeah,
And yeah, of course we've got rivalries, and they'll only get stronger the more that we're in it. But
yeah.
you know, we're relatively um, new team, and we're only getting stronger and stronger year by year. So with more people coming in, we've got stronger personnel, and yeah, we're winning more, and it'll be more and more exciting.
So I saw it's you guys started in 2019, and already there's so many different racers. And what I thought was quite cool is that you've got leading teams in different European countries. So it's quite nice rather than one singular team. It's pretty cool. Did you come on quite early? So were you? I know it was like 2019. Have you been involved with FordZilla from quite early on, or is it fairly recently?
And it's fairly recently.
Okay.
Yeah, I got in just after lockdown, or just sort of mid lockdown. I got on because that's when my racing season was on the back burner, was just sort of completely frozen. As we're all sat inside, and I just smashed too many hours a day on the sim. But
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. It's one of my passions to be able to do sim racing alongside racing in real life. For me, is just absolutely perfect. So yeah, with all these hours put in and all that practice, I got pretty quick at a few combos, and started to impress the big guys, which eventually got me into FordZilla.
Are you with the F4 season? Were you doing a lot of prep, in the sim racing around the tracks, so you can kind of getting all the lines? I mean, you probably know the courses inside and out, but you were kind of blending the two and sort of like syncing the different types of races to give you a bit of an edge, for
Yeah,
drivers that weren't necessarily into the sim racing.
for sure. Yeah, there's this thing called the British F4 iRacing League, and which Ford will be entering soon as well. So I'll be doing it with FordZilla this year instead of my real life racing team, Fortec. But yeah, we'll be entering that for the second season. But yeah, I mean that was literally all the British tracks that we were doing throughout the year, in a very similar car and similar pace. So it was almost like doing the season before the season. So I was just as prepared as anyone going into it.
Do you think that in the next 5, 10 years that it's going to be a viable path into something like an F1? So the way in which people are recruited in and scouted and getting a seat is through the sim world. Because one of the things when I speak to racing drivers is it's incredibly expensive, and it's difficult to kind of get in and fund, even if it's just karting or whatever. And is this sort of something that you think, or that you've noticed? Because we've also spoken to different drivers that have managed to get a real seat from the sim racing world. So
Yeah. I mean, that's where it started off for me.
yeah,
I got very lucky. It's an autosport show back in 2016. I keep bringing this up, but that place is great. You need to go there
yeah,
if you've not been. That Richardson Racing team had a simulator there, and basically the fastest lap time got a test in a real car at Rockingham in a couple of weeks' time. I ended up getting the fastest lap. I went down for the test and managed to get a seat, sort of racing for them in the future, which I
wow,
then stayed with them for the next 3 years. So yeah, there's very, very viable options out there, obviously, and you only got to look at like the world's fastest gamer and stuff like that.
yeah,
For
yeah,
I think it's James Baldwin, the
yeah.
racing GT3 cars now, which is very, very exciting.
Very cool. Gaming specifically, it's kind of been a bit of a boom year for gaming, probably because it was always going to be there, but people have been locked in. What are there games outside of racing that you're a fan of, or you always just sort of naturally gravitated towards this passion for sort of racing games? So what does fun look like for you when you're kicking back and chilling out with a PlayStation or a PC or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I love COD.
Yeah,
I love iRacing, and that's completely my main focus. But yeah, no, I love playing COD, and a few people might have seen that on my streams and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I love playing sort of the new games that are coming out, like Fall Guys and stuff like that. Just getting involved in what the industry has to offer at the moment. There's just so many people coming out with different things that need to be shown off. And I think if you don't go and try out all these different sort of little nook and crannies of um, whatever these creators have made, you're missing out. And I don't think it's always good to stick to the mainstream stuff. It's always good to try out these exciting new prospects.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, one of the things we like to do here is have like challenges and things. But in theory, if you were able to do a lap that was your ideal lap, or your best lap, and you're bringing your best life in a sim race, what would that be? And if you would say, you know what, if I had a really good crack at a circuit in a car, people would struggle to get close to me.
I think, ooh, I don't know, you know. I th
No,
You know what? Sorry, I'll go for the old. Let's go for a GT40 right around Le Mans.
there you
Let's
go.
go and smash it.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Sounds good.
that'd be good.
I think it's super exciting. I think it's amazing to see that you've won the F4 Championship. So, and I really look forward to sort of following how you progress through, in real racing and sim racing. And we're big fans of FordZilla here. So, thank you very much for the time, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for inviting me down. It's been great fun.